All right, welcome back. We are on week 15 of 16. Just a few, not even 2 weeks are left. Everything closes the next week of Sunday. On Sunday at midnight, it all closes out. There's no beyond. The semester ends. Uh, if you heard that there's extensions, you heard wrong, or it doesn't apply to this situation. So, yeah, 12:10. Is that correct? Let's just double check. Oh, that's the week. Yeah. We close on the 15th. Everything ends on the 15th. So just note that the 15th at midnight, everything shuts down. Today we're going to talk about unity and harmony in two different ways. We're going to talk about it in through just like standard graphic design and then as branding. And I think that's the bigger one that should come across is when we talk about branding. We do, when we're starting to do graphic design now, there's a lot of stuff that we do in it. I would call it one-offs. We do a design here. We do a design there. We do a design there. And it's kind of one-off. But when you work for a company, there's another one I should put it. There needs to be brand unity and harmony. So across the brand, meaning everything for that brand, no matter who does it, in what area or what country or whatever, because they have different designers where it all needs to look the same. It needs to be unified. So I'll get into that more in a little bit, but let's start with the presentation. All right. Unity. Let's start with unity. Unity, it's just like us people. It's the overall sense of coherence and oneness in a design. It'd be like if doing a design piece and it was red. It was like all red. And then like for some reason you put in this weird other color, maroon. And we're like, why is that thrown in? Like you're questioning why did you change something within the design? Is it meant for anomaly? Is it meant for, or is it creating a good unity? Does it feel like it fits within the piece? And so a lot of this comes across when we're designing, and I'll say maybe a simpler one is if you add photos to a poster. Oh yeah, like say you're adding photos to a poster, and one of the photos just doesn't match the rest. Like say you have photos of a concert or like a music festival for some reason, and you have like a crowd shot, and then you have somebody eating a hot dog. And it turns into like little like, wait, why is that one in there? Like it's not unified with the rest of the poster. Like why are we doing that? It should be like all three pictures are quite different or all three pictures are quite the same. But if you have two of one and one of the other, it just kind of offsets the design. So that sense of cohesiveness and oneness, it's ruined because you threw in this like curveball. I guess it's a curveball in design. Doesn't help the design. It makes people look at it differently, and then they question, like, wait, why is that in there? Why is that done like that? Another one is changing up like styles of illustration or using like store-bought illustrations, but two different types in one like poster. So you have like, say you have a picture, an illustration of a bear and it's done one way, and then you have an illustration because we're doing something with animals and an elephant, but the elephant was done by a totally different designer, and you'd be like, but why does the bear look like this and why is the elephant like this? There's no unity to the style. And I'll show you some examples. And then harmony is the visual compatibility of the elements in the design. So how are they working together? With just what I said. Do they work together? You can actually have competing styles work together in harmony if you do it right. I think there's an illustration over that I'll show you that has a little bit of like, it's very smooth, but then they interjected a little bit of dirtiness, I'll call it, into the design. And but it's still harmonious. It's not like they just added it one place. It's dissimilar to the pattern project where, like I said, like I love an anomaly within a design, but usually an anomaly within a pattern, is it sticks with the pattern and it doesn't go too far off from it. And so that's what we're looking for in harmony. We want the piece, we don't ever want to look at a part within a design and think, why is that there? Or why does that look like it does? And so that's the base between the unity and harmony when it comes to design. So consistency with style, I already talked about. We have a bear, it looks like one person did a bear, and we have an elephant that looks like somebody else did the elephant. What I end up doing in those situations, or what you'll hear from me is, and this is like future me, this is what you heard from future me in the brand class and art history, is why does it look like two different people worked on this project? You know, it looks like something's happening over here and something's happening over here, but it doesn't, they're not consistent in style. And I generally kind of say it like, it looks like two different people worked on this instead of one person working on it. Where's the consistency in style? That comes down to that first one that I tried to talk about, color harmony, and making sure like, is the color unified throughout the piece? Are you introducing new colors just to introduce new colors because you're a designer? Or are you introducing new colors because it helps the design piece? It was very, I was looking at a piece, I don't know, X. Oh, this, I wonder if it shows the inside. All right. All right. It was my son's birthday yesterday, and he got this. And it came with these were bags that were filled with slime. All right. Enough that you, oh wait, no. I want to go big. Why is it getting smaller? Oh. But I wanted the zoom in on this. I can't quite, oh no, I know. And I was looking at these designs. These were the packages that held slime, that held little toys. It's all great fun, right? We all love it. Great fun, great fun. But I was looking at it and I was thinking, what great designs. They could have gone like super crazy with them, but they were very consistent overall. For all the weirdness that they were showing, they were very consistent in the designs. And the color, so I was looking at the heart, and I was like, okay, they're using a very limited amount of colors. The design style across all these is exactly the same. And they weren't adding anything that didn't need to be added. So the green slime here is the exact color as the green slime here. You know, like, so they made sure that there is a design consistency throughout all the pieces, even though they were living separately. And I looked at these for a while. And then the one anomaly within these is, these are supposed to be alien eyeballs, is they added this little wet reflection. But it doesn't really happen on anything else. And so I was like kind of pleased overall. I was like, oh, I really like the way this looks. They did a good job across the board. It's very professional, very good looking. And they were, you know, color harmony was there. They could have added like 30 greens to make the slime, but they just like 3 colors only, just for the, you know, and they toned it down. And I'm very much about that. Like there's another design, you know, keeping it simple, keep it simple, student kiss, where if you don't need to add it, don't. And if you can remove it, please remove it. You know, just remove what's not needed. And that will help with that color harmony and other harmonious parts too. You know, like, do you need to add that drop shadow that you wanted to add just because you could add a drop shadow? No, don't add it. It's not consistent in the style. Let's see, let's go. Repetition creates harmony. This one, certain design elements within the design being repeated help with that harmony. Got 3 lines? Got 3 lines. You know, like, want to use it here? I'm going to use it there. It's very cool. This especially works when we're talking about branding. I just said, hold on. I said 3 lines, wasn't really thinking about it. What do you think when we say 3 lines? Adidas, their brand, 3 lines. What do they use? 3 lines. How many lines? 3 lines consistently. Even if they change things up, they're known for 3 lines. So that is their brand. That is their repetition. And that's what makes their brand harmonious. Alignment, proper alignment of elements within the layout or composition enhances unity. Yeah, if you got things scattered this way and that way, it doesn't look good. I think I deleted it. I had a student example where the paragraphs were all a little bit off from each other. Like one was set here, one was just a little bit more over here, one was a little, and I had to write back. You got to align everything to make it look unified and look good. You know, like everything's all over the place. It's disturbing to the eye. You wonder why? Why isn't everything in a straight line? That creates a harmonious piece when everything is like lined up. There's a reason why there is a section in the book about grids, or there, you know, I talked about grids and layout, or using guides when you design. Get everything lined up perfectly. And these days, it's so easy to do that in the design. It's like built into the design. I want things to align. A magenta line pops up, so you can't not do it. You know, basically, you really have to force things out of alignment. But again, alignment makes it harmonious and unified. There, I was looking for unified. Proportion and scale. Again, this may be opposite of what we talked about last time, but if your scale is all off, I have a bear and an elephant, but the bear is bigger than the elephant. Why is the bear bigger than the elephant? An elephant's usually bigger than the bear. You know, like, why are we doing these strange things? I have a widow. I should fix that. So why are we doing all these strange things? So there should be an appropriation, you know, like, of why things are scaled the way they are within your design. And that this stops basically like in your sketch phase, you know right away, like, oh, these things are too big. Okay, make them smaller, scale them down. They don't need to be as big as they are. We scale them down. We bring those features down in size. Typography. Never, ever more than 3 fonts. Really, never really should be more than 2. You start throwing fonts everywhere, it starts to look like who's doing what. Typography. You're in it. I think most of you are taking it. Less is more. The type is for reading and or getting attention. It's not, typography shouldn't be the creative outlet as the part of the design unless you're dealing with a singular word and it is illustrated. You know, So if you're just typing out, there's no reason for fancy, weird text unless it fits. Have the text be harmonious, unified throughout the piece. No reason for weird. It's people just need to read it. It can be weird if it's like one word. We're talking about like a one-word poster, or we're doing like psychedelic posters and it's supposed to be that way. But even then, the psychedelic typography is unified throughout. Negative space. That's okay. Empty space allows for breathing room, it's called. White space, we call it. Empty space, white space, it's resting space. It helps a piece feel not cluttered, not overdone. You should never, like, things shouldn't be touching other things ever. That'll be a big one. Margin space is the other one. Like a photo, if you put a photo in a piece, it should have an imaginary margin around it where nothing can touch that photo for like a 1/4 inch. And you start to develop a good sense of this the more and more you design, of like, what's too close, what's not too close. Wait, I question this with every design. I'll be like, why is that so close to that? Like, it needs space. It needs space around it. White space or negative space or empty space. 1,000 different words for that. But that helps the piece read and helps with that harmony. And then concept and theme. This is just overarching everything that we're talking about is the general look and feel. The overall concept and theme should carry through. Let's check out a couple of these. I'm going to come back to this one. Let's talk about jazz. All right. Design consistency. Colors, consistent. Line weight throughout all the illustration, consistent. What do we call it? Ribbon arms in the illustration, consistent throughout. Everything they've done is consistent. When we have an overlap, the color changes from white to yellow consistently. You got to go find every spot where they have, and it's changed and it's consistent. There's no like, all of a sudden there's not like fatter lines on the drums compared to the bass. You know, like it's all same line weight, same size guys. You know, like there's a consistency throughout in this illustration. And then with the design, the dots and the lines refer to the dots and the lines used in the background. So there's design consistency. I see it here. I can see it here. The lines refer to the illustrations, the line down here. It's all very harmonious in the way they developed this entire poster. In the website, pocket squares. What are we talking about? Squares. We're starting out here with a square. And for the most part, their entire site is built out of squares. Design consistency. It's so like in this way, it's so easy. And then the design consistency here, we have 4 1 1 4 4 1 1 4. Like, and so you kind of keep up with that. It switches. There's variety, but it's unified in the way we're adding variety. Each image can change, but we still have like white square, white square, white square. Like that's consistent throughout, and it's done in a very clean and easy way. But there's differences there too. So it's not stodgy, like, oh, I could only design with squares. Like they did this fantastic job of breaking up the space, keeping it interesting photos. And there's another one, like interesting photos. They all have the same, what we call like visual aesthetic to the photos. Like none of them are like in your face, super bright. Like they're all kind of done in this moody style. They have filters put on them. They look cool, you know, like grainy. There's maybe some added grain or grayness to them. And it's done as a design consistency. You know, the images all look like the same photographer took them. And that's a tough one. That's sometimes beyond your control, and where you need to talk to other people and be like, you know, the photos don't match. They don't look the same. This goes back to that pattern, goes back to the texture. This is like the same thing. This is the top here is the bottom, but flipped. So this triangle is here. If this triangle is here, if there was one, it would be here, right? And then we'd have that shape. So it's a very consistent design. What did they do? They removed one triangle from down here to add anomaly. All right. But it's just the same thing flipped down. There's no difference in the pattern. So, and then it's all triangles, the triangle, you know, like all based down. You can cut it all up into triangles, and it's kind of very cool. Geometric design. They even had that, you know, come through and few things from, you know, and then their contrast is this font used here. So purposely contrasting all the jagged edges from the design. And this is the one I was talking about. Like in that kind of overall design consistency, it's a very simple flat illustration design, which works. But then they just added enough of like dirtiness. There's some speckling here, speckling around here. They added the, you know, the rough edge here to add a little more life, I would call it, to a flat illustration. It's hard for me to think that I wonder if they thought about this before or after. If they did the illustration, like, it needs a little something more. Somebody's like, it needs some like texture. Like you're talking about ink. And it should look like ink is splattering, you know, like from the tattoo machine. Maybe, you know, was that a secondary thought? And they're like, oh, rough up the edges and have it carry throughout. So again, flat design illustration, very clean typography, and then to add contrast, but it's still harmonious in its way, is they added texture to several places throughout. And then that way it's uniform in that sense. Finally, I'm going to just like kind of like name some things here and show you. The big one too with unity in design is brand. Oh no. Oh, it's here. McDonald's. Consistent. You know it from a mile away. You don't need to see everything. You know it. And it's consistent. Look at the consistency in design. You know, McDonald's, all the very consistencies in their design. You just know it when you see it. Starbucks. You know it when you see it. It's design consistency throughout all their design, throughout their entire brand. That's what we want to know. That's what makes you as a consumer of it comfortable. When you see it, you're like, that's my brand. That's why everybody gets up in arms when somebody says like, oh, we switched the logo. We updated our logo, and everybody gets up in arms because they're like, oh, but it's my brand. It's not your brand. You just give them money for a product. Good old Apple. Brand consistency. Just went from a rainbow to a black or gray apple. Done, done, done. But I mean, even this, 77, 98, 2001, nothing's really changing. It's just at one point, this was cool because you could do this easily on computers. Make that glossiness. That became easy and became, everybody was doing it. 1998, flat. 2017, flat. What is it now? Flat. Even this one, like Vans shoes, checkers. You know, mile away, when you see the checkers and that Vans logo, you know, like, hey, that's Vans. That's my brand, you know? So that's another big one that we talk about unity in a design is specifically, branding. All right. Find some unified images for that. For the Unity project, you're going to do 6 compositions using color as one theme, shape as one theme, and typography to define Unity in the design. Do whatever you want, but you should make little unified designs. What is Unity to you? How does that look to you? You can refer back now to all those last 14 weeks of designs. What is there to help you create these 6 little compositions? One with color, one with shape, and one with typography. Have some fun. Play around. Last but not least for you to work on is your computer rough draft. So just like with your poster, you will be bringing in your drawing into InDesign and then starting to place your graphic design parts on top of it. If you do it correctly, it's very easy. It's just one and done. I went through like how often I do this. I do this a lot. You may think like, oh no, nobody ever does this. Here's one example. I got a bunch of examples. Ignore them. All right. I did a drawing, just like you guys. This is about design. I knew what I had in my assets. I knew I wanted pictures, photo, about who. And so what did I do? This chicken. All right. I knew I had a picture of chicken. Images. I knew I have images here and one up there. So what did I have to do? I just put the images where they were. Now you could be thinking like, oh, I can just do that without the visual reference. You would be very surprised at how off things get if you are referencing one thing to another. And to put in a drawing into your design takes 3 seconds. So it's worth starting here with the drawing and just putting things on top of your drawing and adjusting from there. Because I could tell you that, I may have put in, if I was just looking at my drawing and starting to put in my image differently, I probably wouldn't have had my images be below the halfway mark, which actually sets them nicely lower. I probably would have been like, oh, but I want them to be from here to here because I'm referencing in my mind not what I drew, but something else. And there is a beauty in the freshness that comes from sketching that can be used in the design. I promise you, like this takes 1 second and then putting things on top of it will be much quicker. If you reverse design and try to you're going to be sitting there and like futzing with stuff and trying to get it right rather than just being like, no, okay, I got that chicken. I'll bring it in and put it right there. I got my images. Of course, I went through and I adjusted afterwards, but having the image there made this part of the process easier because I wasn't thinking about anything else except for I just kind of need to match up to my drawing instead of, well, where should this go? Well, what if I don't like this? Because now I'm making design changes I don't need to make right now. There's another one, this little map project. This tiny sketch, I brought it in and then I was like, all right, let's start placing stuff on top of it, and it matches up. I had a clue of where I wanted everything from the beginning and I placed it in there and I didn't have to think about where am I putting stuff, how am I putting it, and it just takes minutes because I already did the work here. But again, what I wasn't challenging myself to do is recreate this by looking at something on a different, something in on the piece of paper. I just brought it in. I don't have to re-reference looking down, looking up. It's all right here. Where do I want the text? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Boom. Nope, not wrong one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Spaced out a little bit better, but it is exactly where I said it would be. So use your drawings to help get to your computer drafts. It'll make things so much easier on you overall than trying to design as you go. Everybody, I know, everybody. Oh no, I can just design into the program. Sure you can, but don't complain when it takes forever. You know, this is the easier way to do it. Work smarter, not harder. So that is what you got to do. And this one is an InDesign. So, you know, 2 different programs you're learning at the same time. It's good to learn that. And that is it. So to reiterate, make sure everybody's listening, there will not be a lecture for Thursday. Thursday is a free day again. We'll just meet again on Tuesday. Thursday, I will be here on Thursday if you need to use the room, but we will not have a lecture. I want you to work on your final projects, kind of start your, clearing up and getting ready for the end of the semester. So any questions, comments, concerns? All right. I will see you on the discussion boards and possibly see you in person next week, Tuesday, for our final class. All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.